All right, hi, I'm Ben Solomon, varsity defensive line coach over at Huntley High School. This is Alex Petroni and Justin Allen, both coming back next year. They got varsity starts. They'll be regular starters next year, and they're going to help me demonstrate some of the basic fundamental techniques that we do every single day. The very first thing that we're going to do is show you how to properly get down into a stance. This isn't something that we do a whole lot at the high school level. It's something that we correct as we go, but it is important to know how to get down into it so you're not just, winging it. So the very first thing you need to do is get your feet about shoulder width. All right, so guys, get your feet about shoulder width, facing the camera. And then with your dominant hand, so if you're a righty, you want to take your right foot and your toe should split your left foot about right down the middle. That's how much you want it to be staggered. If you were to pass rush, knowing you're in a pass down, you could drag it back a little bit further to get more of a forward lead. You want to stagger it so you're split right down the middle. Right? From there, squat down. And for right now, you can put your arms on your legs, but don't do that once you get fully into the stance. Right? So you should be squatted down, your back should be postured up, your chest should be straight, facing forward. You don't want to be bent at the waist. That's something that you really want to emphasize avoiding in your players. You want to use your hips, you don't want to bend at the waist. Alright, from there, just put up your hands and fall forward. Alright, wherever you fall forward, that's going to give you a proper amount of forward lean. If you're leaning too far forward, you're going to take a big lunging step out of your stance. If you're leaning too far back, chances are you're just going to pop straight up and you're going to lose the battle right away. So get down into it. Never rest your hand like this. Don't put it on your leg. It should be holstered, ready to punch. The way we teach the first few steps out of the stance, if your arm is right here, you're going to be pulling it back anyway. That's wasted motion. And even though it's just a fraction of a second, it can make a difference in beating the offensive lineman to the punch. So I'll do that again. Split your foot with your dominant foot right down the middle with your toe. Squat down into the stance, an actual squat, no bending at the waist, chest postured up, fall forward, holster your up arm. Just like that. From there, the most important thing, especially in our defense, because we run a gap control defense, so the number one job of the defensive line is to own the gap, ideally commanding a double team, to free up our linebackers and defensive backs to fill, scrape, and make plays. So we don't get all the glory, so we just have to be that much better to be able to make the tackles in the backfield. So what we do to really emphasize the technique, and this is something that we do every single day, is called a 4-point lockout drill. So Justin, if you want to stand up right here, make sure you're facing so you can get this up here from the side. Alright, this emphasizes the hip roll, locking out of the arms, and proper hand placement. So I can instruct Justin to come straight forward, and if he does so, notice how his hips come forward, he's not bending at the waist, and simultaneously he is locking out his arms. Nobody's going to be able to bench press an offensive lineman away from you. Very few people can do that. But if you get the hip roll, the power from your hamstrings and your glutes into that movement, you're going to jerk the offensive lineman's head back and the battle's already won. It doesn't matter what kind of blocking scheme they're throwing at you, even if it's a double. If you can posture up, roll your hips, and lock out your arms, you're going to be able to step in that gap right away, and you've done your job at a very minimum. All right, I can instruct Justin to step to the right. Go ahead. And it's the same exact concept, except now instead of getting right in here, if he were to come straight at you, or if you were in a technique where you were lining head up on an offensive lineman, he's going right here. Now imagine if you were wearing pads, you'd have something to grab and lock onto there. Make sure you use your hands. If Justin were to step to the left, same thing. Alright, so one thing we do from here as far as drills go is I can stand over here and tell all of my offensive linemen to go one way or the other, or I can get them into groups and tell them to go rapid fire, in which case Justin would decide on his own which direction he's going to step in, and he would try to get in as many reps as possible. This is something that you should allow them to do after you feel comfortable coaching them up throughout the drill and seeing that everyone is capable of rolling their hips and locking out their arms. So guys, go ahead and just 4 or 5 reps going whichever direction you want, rapid fire. Good, just really notice that hip roll, how he's throwing his hips forward at the same time he's extending and locking out his elbows. Let's do one more. Good. From there, and only when you see that they are consistently rolling their hips forward and locking out their arms, do you want to do that from a 3-point stance. So Alex, go ahead and stand up. Now, this is tough because you're starting to put it all together. Out of a stance, most kids are going to want to take a big, long lunging step. The very first step out of the stance should be about right to here. It should be about a half step, and you're getting your hands up right away, which is why it's important that you holster your hand and not leave it hanging here, because then you're just going to pull it up and then throw it forward, and that's a waste of time. All right, so you can do a very similar drill out of the 3-point stance. So Alex, get your 3-point. Justin's going to step straight forward in this case, and Alex is going to put it all together. Notice his good first step. And he's not bending at the waist. A lot of younger kids are going to want to take that step and stand straight up. Notice how his first movement is the entire body coming forward. All right, so Justin, step to the right. Same thing. Alex just needs to remember to grip on to that offensive lineman and not just push it. All right, so Justin, step to the left. Good. Now the other thing, because we are very rarely, especially inside of the defensive tackle position, going to be lined head up on the offensive lineman in front of us, we're almost always going to be in a shade. We need to practice this from the shade. So I'm going to tell Justin to step this way, and Alex needs to react. Justin, go ahead. Move on movement. Good. Now notice how Alex saw him moving this way and he kept shuffling down. That's called squeezing. So let's walk through that again. Walk through it. So if I'm the ball carrier and Alex sees me going this way, keep squeezing, he can't leave his gap because then I could just cut back. He needs to keep squeezing down, closing the gaps off, making it easier for the linebackers and defensive backs to step up and do their job. Only if he's able to squeeze down far enough to become even with me can he leave his blocker and come get me. Do the same thing. Yep. Hey. If he sees me moving this way, he can leave his gap and come get me. He needs to be careful though, especially as a defensive tackle, because there's probably a trap or something coming back his way. You need to keep your eyes up. All right, so let's just go left shade. This is a drill we do every single day. Try to get as many reps as you possibly can. Set, hit. Bring it back. Set, hit. All right, bring it back. There's a little wrinkle that you can throw into it to keep them honest. Set, hit. You can add pass or screen calls into that to keep them honest so it's not predictable. All right, the last thing that we'll cover today is a very basic double team drill. So if you guys stand right here facing me. We teach it a little bit differently, but the technique that I'm going to show you is kind of the foundation of the drill that we do. So if I'm locked on right here, I get my good first step, I roll my hips and my arms are locked out, and I feel pressure coming onto me from the other side. What I can do is stick my arm down here, so I'm grabbing the inside of the chest plate of the shoulder pads, pull him in, go to a knee. and then fall into the gap. All right, so if I'm right here, feel the pressure, I got a good punch, drag down, fall into the gap. And that at the very least is going to allow you to keep and maintain your gap, and that's doing your job. If there's any techniques, any drills, pass rush stuff, come out and see us at practice. I'd be happy to spend time with anyone to teach you a little bit more if you feel like your kids have gotten this down. But at a minimum, if they come to us as freshmen, being familiar with and able to execute these techniques and drills, they'll be in really good shape.